Hey folks, Tommy the Butcher for Wise Guys Barbecue coming at you with a new exciting video. Today, you're gonna love this one. It's a smoked ragu a la bolognese, and we served it up with a pappardelle pasta, all Wise Guys Barbecue style. But before we get started, please like, share, and subscribe. Hit that notification bell so you will not miss an episode. Stick around, we're gonna be making it together. Let's talk about the meat we're using for today's classic bolognese. Now, normally what's used is ground beef, ground pork, sometimes ground veal. We're not gonna go that route. We're gonna change things up a little bit. We're gonna put our own twist, being Wise Guys Barbecue. I'm actually gonna use equal amounts of pork and beef. What I have here on the butcher block is 500 grams or roughly 18 ounces of pork butt muscle meat. Now, in the world of barbecue, this is the prized part of the pork butt, and it's what's used in most of the turn-in boxes. It's just that little cylinder of meat on one end of the pork butt that's the most delectable part of the entire cut of meat. So that's what we're gonna use for our pork. Now, for our beef component, I went and ordered some hanger steak. Now, hanger steak is very rare. You're not gonna find it in most retail shops. Even if you ask your butcher, you might have a hard time even finding it. I went online and purchased hanger steak from Flannery Beef. They're out in California. It's an online butcher shop. It's very, very rich. It's most similar to the cap on a ribeye steak, a bone-in ribeye. Everybody loves that cap for the flavor, for the tenderness. It's usually ground meat that goes into the bolognese. So what are we gonna do with this? We're actually gonna take it outside. We're gonna do a cold smoke. And you might be thinking to yourself, yeah, but they use ground meat. Aha, we've got that solved. After we pull this off the smoker, we're gonna bring it in. We're gonna run it through a food processor. So we'll process the meat down. It'll be basically a ground meat texture. And at that point, we're gonna get our bolognese started with pork money muscle and beef hanger steaks. All right, we're outside here on our Yoda YS640, and we're ready to get our meat on, but hey, let's talk about cold smoking a little further. Why are we cold smoking today? Well, I want to get smoke imparted on the meat without cooking it. Normally we think about smoking temperatures 225, 300, in those ranges, where we're smoking meat for long periods of time to break down all that connective tissue, all that collagen. Well, there are countless items that can be done with a cold smoke technique to get smoked flavors imparted in those products. And I can name cheese is one perfect example. Nuts, chocolate, even water. Any of these foods lend themselves well to cold smoking, where it would be detrimental to have temperatures of 200 to 300 degrees. We want to do the cold smoke on my beef and pork today, just to impart smoke flavor. That's all it is. We're only gonna have this on for about an hour tops. And you might be asking yourself, well, geez, this meat is in the danger zone as far as temperature is concerned. Well, that's why when cold smoking, it's best to do a brine ahead of time, whether it's a wet brine, whether it's a dry brine, because in effect, you're kind of curing that meat, so it actually is able to sustain temperatures that it normally wouldn't if it was just a fresh product. So, all right, enough. We're gonna get this stuff on. All right, how are we gonna do this cold smoke without the thing fired up, with no smoke? We're gonna use a smoke tube. Now, what this does, it allows you to fill this with pellets, smoke pellets, or you could use wood chips. We're gonna light this and get it burning, put the fire out, and that'll allow it to smoke for the entire time that we're going to have it out here. All right, we're going to get this smoker tube lit. We placed it to the far left of our smoker, and we're getting some smoke action on it now. It'll flame up at one point, and then we'll just allow the flames to snuff out. You can see what we're looking for when we do we did a dry brine, and we needed to form what I call the pellicle. You can see the It almost looks, it's kind of like tacky a little bit, almost like a little sticky. It looks wet when in fact it's very, very dry. But that's the key process in a cold smoke, is the formation of the pellicle. I'm gonna blow that out to get the smoke going. Put this right up on top. I'm gonna leave it on this rack. And we got a fan, it's going, so that smoke will circulate inside the cook chamber. It's exactly what I was hoping for. I wasn't looking for any browning. I wasn't looking for any cooking, because that's going to be a critical step once we get it inside and begin to braise our bolognese. So we're going to get these off. And I'm going to get them into the freezer for about maybe a half hour to an hour. What I want this to do is get a good chill on it, because we're going to actually process this up, and that will be taking the place of our ground beef, ground pork. We're going to have a cold smoked beef hanger steak and pork money muscle. It's going to make one hell of a bolognese sauce. So see you inside. I can't wait to get this put together. But what we need to do now, we need to grind this down or process it. We don't have a meat grinder here in the studio, but what I'm going to use is a food processor that will break it down. But an important step you need to do in order to achieve that, I had to put the meat into a freezer. It needed to get a solid chill on it, not frozen, but a good chill, and also put the steel blade in the freezer as well. You want everything cold, cold. If not, that all the rotation of the blade and all that friction is going to create more of a paste, and that's something you definitely don't want. So I'm going to get all this chopped up. I'm going to start with the beef first, and you basically want to do maybe 1-inch chunks. You don't want to put anything in there too big, and this will help expedite the grinding process much better. Now also, we don't want to overload the processor as well. I would say maybe, I don't know, maybe about a cup and a half worth of meat in there. And we're just going to continue through with this process little by little until we get everything ground up. All right, so I'm going to stay with that, put the lid on. Now, you only want to pulse this. Don't put it on and leave it going, because you're going to end up with a meat paste on your hand. You don't want that. So just give it a few pulses, and you want to keep doing that until eventually it'll break down and it'll be almost to like a grind. Keep looking at it. All right, you can see the consistency. I'm going to go just a little bit more. Maybe 2 or 3 more pulses. We're going to get our pork money muscle done next. Going to do it the same way. In you go. You could very easily transform beef roasts, pork roasts, anything like that into ground beef or ground pork. And it's a great way to do it at home without having to buy pre-ground product from the store. And it was relatively easy. Let's get going with this bolognese. We've got everything prepped. My mise en place is all in place. First thing we're gonna go into the pot with is about 4 ounces of pancetta. Now this was a diced product. We processed this in the Cuisinart as well to get like a nice grind. So this is basically, pancetta is a cured unsmoked bacon, classic in many Italian dishes, but we're gonna go in with the 4 ounces of pancetta. And we're gonna let that just kind of render down. We don't need any oil at this point. There's quite a bit of fat present in that, and that's just what I'm looking for before we go in with the next ingredients, which is gonna be sofrito. Now, this whole process, you're gonna do on a medium heat. You do not want a lot of high heat involved in this. You're looking for all the ingredients to kind of cook together. You're not looking for really any browning whatsoever on the meat. Just try to keep that fire down low. You really don't want to see a lot of, crackling and sparkling in this. It's a very slow, sustained, long cook braise. And with all that time, all these ingredients are just going to marry with one another. And I'm going to go in with just a little bit of olive oil on top of extra virgin olive oil, because I'm getting ready for the next step. And I'm looking for a little more fat present in the pot. Next, we're going to go in with our onion. I have one red onion, finely chopped. You can use brown onion, yellow onion, Vidalia onion, whatever you like. But I'm using a red onion today for this. So we'll get that in, and we'll just let it sweat out a little bit. So at this point, we're working on our sofrito. And our sofrito for this cook is onion, carrot, and celery. Now, sofrito can have other ingredients in it as well. It could have peppers, garlic, and basically what a sofrito is, like a mirepoix they call it, it's mixed vegetables. That's usually the base of any stew, any braise, what develops the foundation of flavor whenever you're building sauces, braises, stews, that type of thing. Gonna get that heat up a little bit. All right, next we want to go in with our carrot. I have 3 carrots here, and I have 2 sticks of celery chopped. Now all these ingredients, they're all chopped about the same size. Make sure they're diced up the same size so it'll all cook evenly. Very important, very critical. All right, I'm gonna get this rolling here. And at this point, I'm gonna add a little seasoning. I'm gonna go a little bit of salt, a little bit of pepper. When we're talking about bolognese, or actually for any Italian cooking for that matter, it's all predicated on simple, fresh ingredients. We're not looking for this to be laden with spices and herbs. I mean, there's nothing going in here. There's no oregano, there's no basil. We're just talking salt, pepper, the pancetta, very simple sofrito, and the rest is just gonna be our tomato ingredients and our ground meat. We're not going in with any herbs, any stocks whatsoever. It's basically gonna rely on all the fresh flavors of the simple ingredients that are gonna be in here. All right, I got this going, and I'm gonna put the lid on for maybe about a minute. What that'll do is kind of steam those vegetables. I'm gonna go in with, I've got about a half a glass of red wine. This happens to be a Cabernet Sauvignon. You can use whatever you like. And please, if you won't drink it, don't cook with it. All right, we're gonna let that continue cooking. We're gonna reduce this red wine until it pretty much all evaporates. And that should take 5 to 10 minutes or so. Gonna leave the lid off at this point because we want that wine to evaporate. The next thing we're gonna go in with is all our meat that we had prepped. So in goes the pork, along with our beef. All right, we're just gonna stir this all about. We're just looking for a grayish color because it'll continue on cooking once we add all our tomato products in here. And that will set it up for we're gonna go a 4-hour cook with this. This isn't something that takes an hour or two. We're looking at a 4-hour cook once I get this all put together. All right, I'm gonna add a little more seasoning, a little more salt and pepper. And we're gonna continue stirring this for a few minutes until, like I said, it begins to turn gray. Now there are so many pasta sauces. I happen to think that this bolognese is probably the most popular. Let us know in the comment, what is your favorite pasta sauce? There are so many out there. It's virtually limitless, but this is a classic. And I would venture to guess that it's probably one of the most, if not the most popular. Our meat is coming along well, and it's got the color that I'm looking for at this point. So we're ready for the next step, the next ingredient. So I'm gonna take the remaining half glass of red wine, and we're going in with that. And we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna allow this to reduce. We're gonna allow it to evaporate until all the liquid is no longer present in the pot. All right, we're ready to go in with all our tomato products. First thing I'm gonna add is 100 grams of tomato paste. 100 grams is basically 3.5 ounces. So I'm going directly into the pot. And we wanna let this cook in for about 3 or 4 minutes. The tomato paste will take on like a more of a mahogany color as it cooks down, because all the sugars in the tomato paste will actually begin to caramelize. At this point, you want to keep stirring. You don't want that tomato paste to be sitting on the bottom of the pot. It can have a tendency to burn. All right, already I can see this is starting to look like a bolognese. It's already taken on that kind of rusty looking, tomatoey color. It's all starting to come together. Next we're gonna go in with, I got 1 bottle of tomato passata. What a tomato passata is a cooked tomato product. They cook it down, they remove all the seeds, they remove all the skins, and we're gonna go in with 1 whole bottle of the tomato passata. There are different brands of this. That's basically what it looks like up close and personal. I'm gonna add that, give this a stir. We'll give that a minute or 2 to cook and all come together. I've got 400 grams or roughly 15 ounces of a whole peeled tomato. These are gonna go right in. They will cook down throughout the cook, and every now and then I'll go in and kind of smash them up with my wooden spoon. All right, this should look like a very thick sauce at this point. The ratio of meat to liquid, like tomato liquid, it's almost 1 to 1. We're gonna put the lid on. We're gonna make sure the heat is low. You don't wanna boil at all, first of all. You wanna be able to just look in and see a little bubble here, a little bubble there. We want to cook this very low, low and slow. That's it. It's gonna be doing this for 4 hours. We're gonna come back to it every half hour, take a look, give it a stir. We'll finish the remainder of the cook. The very last hour, we'll be done with the lid off. We're 2 hours in, we're halfway there. Man, this is looking phenomenal. It's getting nice and thick, nice and glossy. This is all like coming together very well. See how we are with seasoning? Gonna put the lid back on, and we're gonna do this for another hour. Okay, we're 3 hours in with our bolognese. This is the time where we're gonna remove the lid, and for the last hour, we're gonna leave the lid off. It's thickening up, it's still becoming more and more creamy. This is looking fantastic. It's nice and tight. There's one last ingredient to add. This is optional, and it's whole milk. It's a classic item in a lot of bolognese where they add dairy right at the end. So I've got about maybe, I don't know, 8 ounces of whole milk in here, but I'm not necessarily gonna add it all. I'll go half of this, and I'll just give it a stir. I'm just looking for a particular color. And what this milk will do, it'll just enrichen the sauce even more so. So you'll get a nice, creamy, rich bolognese. And we're just looking to go from that mahogany red color to something that's, I don't want to say it's pink, but it definitely will lighten up the redness of the sauce, so to speak. Now I'm gonna check for seasoning. Once again, there wasn't a lot of liquid we added to it, but a little bit of milk can affect the seasoning. So let's go in here. We'll check for salt and pepper. Perfect. We're gonna let this go for about another hour, uncovered. All right, our smoked ragu alla bolognese is complete. Now it's time to turn our attention to our pasta. But before I do that, I wanna highly recommend whenever you're doing a pasta dish at home, always finish your sauce before you start your pasta. Why? Because the sauce will wait for the pasta won't wait for the sauce. So the pasta we're doing today is a pappardelle. What a pappardelle is a very wide, it's almost twice as wide as a fettuccine. It's very similar to a fettuccine. Some of the pastas that are classic with the bolognese is pappardelle, and there's a tagliatelle, which is the same thing, but just a little narrower. Those are the two classic ones for this dish. Other highly recommended pastas, fettuccine will work well. The other two are rigatoni, rigate. It's a short, wide macaroni with a ridged line in it. And the other one is a penne rigate. Because with those ridged lines, the sauce clings to the outside of the pasta. So those will work well. So I have a well-salted pot of water here. I'm gonna go in with our pappardelle and let this go for about 8 minutes. Pasta is done. What I'm gonna do to prep this for our plating, I've got a saute pan on medium heat. I'm gonna take a couple of spoons of bolognese, add it to the pan, grab a little bit of pappardelle, and very important, reserve some of this pasta water. This is a great technique in finishing all our pastas. The sauce, it'll bring it together, it'll create a little creaminess to it. Oh, this is looking fantastic. And I'm gonna add just a little bit of the pasta water. Finish it off with some grated Parmigiano Reggiano. And folks, there it is. Pappardelle with a smoked ragu a la Bolognese, a la Wise Guys Barbecue. Now, you obviously don't have to go through the steps that we did at the beginning, smoking or cold smoking, beef, pork. It's a lengthy process. By all means, just go to your market, go to your butcher shop, just pick up some ground beef, some ground pork. You can do the same thing, and you can make this bolognese at home without all the extra steps that we went through. But, you know, I'm not even gonna plate this up. This is staring me in the face in this pan. So I'm gonna go right in there. All right, there we go. You can see how that bolognese, the sauce is actually adhering. It's sticking to that pasta. Here we go, folks. Oh my God, it's a winner. Everybody will love it. I'm glad I did this video for you. I'm very excited. This is Tommy the Butcher, Wise Guys Barbecue. I hope you like what we did for you today as much as I like doing it. Please like, share, and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss an episode. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.